Good morning, everybody. It's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries. We are going to read Genesis 33. Before I get started, it is Shabbat, everybody. So we are going to do a shofar blast for Shabbat. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Now, depending when you're watching this replay, it might not be Shabbat. You might see this years after I made this video. But it's Shabbat today, and we like to open up the shofar with a nice the Shabbat with a nice shofar blast and hallelujah. So we are going to be reading Genesis 33. You know, I live in South Florida. I am not from South Florida. And though some of my family is down here now with me, originally I'm from New York. And my mother and my sister and my friends all live in New York. And it's been many years since I've seen many of them. And when I go back to visit them, I do look forward to seeing them. Because we left on good terms, and we do get to speak regularly over the phone. So it's not like we're not seeing each other with technology and everything else today. We get to see each other on more of a regular basis. And so, but can you imagine if you left home and there was no communication at all, left on really bad terms? And there was no forms of communication. Like you couldn't call somebody, you couldn't get on FaceTime or something, and you couldn't even hear from somebody. You didn't even hear news of what was going on and what somebody had and what somebody didn't have. Just imagine that for a moment. That you know what must be going in your mind, wondering. I wonder how my family is. I wonder how that person is. Last time I left, they were a little upset at me. I wonder if they ever got over it, and so on. But you're not really looking to go back there anytime soon. But then circumstance happen, and later on, here you are. You're pretty much Yahweh tells you go back there, and you're going back there. And then you start to think, well, wait a second. Last time I left, people weren't too happy with me. I wonder how they're going to act and how it's going to be. Well, that's the situation we're in chapter 33 of Genesis with Jacob. When he left Esau, Esau was ready to kill him or thinking about killing him. And this is very interesting. I just realized something this morning that a lot of people don't think about. So now this is 20 years later or so, and there are many consequences of Jacob's deception of his brother and also his dad with the blessing and the birthright. And he paid his time. He paid his crime because he got deceived by Laban, and he had to have his wives he didn't want, and maidservants and so on. But lo and behold, Yahweh still blessed him tremendously. He gave him many children and so on. But one of the most major, severe consequences of Jacob doing this was getting, I don't want to say kicked out of his own land because his mother sent him out of his homeland, but he kind of went in fear, and because they departed from Yahweh's plan. But that was the last time he saw his mother. The last time he saw his mother was when he left the land. He came back here some 20 years later, and his mother had died, so his mother's not there. However, one of the reasons he left was because Isaac's eyes were getting dim. Isaac's eyes were getting weak, and it said that Isaac was near the end of his life, and Esau was planning on when Isaac died to kill Jacob, not prior to that. And Jacob fled. Well, from what I think I'm reading here in this chapter, and we'll see, is Isaac hadn't died yet, and it's very interesting. So technically, Jacob never had to leave. If his reason for leaving was because Esau was coming after him. Now let's see here and just see the timing of everything, because I don't know the exact timing of it. It could be out of order or something, but let's read and see what it says. Genesis 33, it says, and Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with 400 men. So he divided his children among Leah, Rachel, and his 2 servant wives. Now, I just have to say here, it's been so long since he saw him that Jacob must have been so amazed to look up and see Esau. Here he comes, and this is the time. This is what he's been thinking about, probably losing sleep about over all these years. What's this meeting going to be like? He put the servant He put the servant wives and their children at front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. Then Jacob went on ahead. As he approached his brother, he bowed to the ground 7 times. All right, let's stop here and let's discuss this for a moment. First, he said he put the servant girls first. And the note here in the One New Man Bible says, some say Jacob came after the wives and children, but he was in front of them. And we'll see here in a moment that he was in front of them. But that's something that people often get backwards. It says, and Jacob, in verse 3 in the One New Man Bible says, and Jacob crossed before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. So he says before then, whereas the New Living Translation, some other translations, it says he bowed to the ground 7 times. He appeared. He approached. So here he comes and he's bowing and bowing and bowing as he's coming to see his brother. And remember, it's been 20 years since they last seen each other. And the note here says, bowing to the ground 7 times was a sign of respect given to a king. Jacob was taking every precaution that he met when he met Esau, hoping to dispel any thoughts of revenge. So that's what Jacob was doing here. And then verse 4 says, then Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they both wept. Wow. This might have puzzled Jacob, a situation like this. It says here, Esau greeted his brother Jacob with a great hug. Imagine how difficult it must have been to a man who once had actually plotted his brother's death. But time away from each other allowed the bitter wounds to heal. With the passing of time, each brother was able to see their relationship was more important than their real estate. That's what the note here says. And, I think about when I read this, it comes to my mind is Joseph and his brothers, how his brothers sold him into slavery, and he had every right to be upset. But then when he finally saw them, he wept, and he was so glad to see them again. And it's very interesting because we see the whole story with we reap what we sow. And here we see Jacob. He left through deception, and he got deceived. And now he came back, and he got forgiveness from his brother. And then Jacob's children got forgiveness from Joseph, his other child. So, a lot of connections here in Scripture, and a lot of things we pick up the more we continue to read things. And, so praise Yahweh. Here they are. Jacob is relieved as he could possibly be. Esau shows some remorse, some repentativeness for his death, but just some forgiveness and not bitterness, because at this point, time heals wounds, and Esau is pretty happy with and content with what he had. So it all worked out for him, it seems. In verse 5, then Esau looked at the women and children and asked, who are these people with you? Who are these people with you? And now Jacob is probably standing there. He's excited that his brother's happy, but still concerned because he knows who Esau is and what Esau is about. And now remember, this is very interesting because the last time we had Abraham and Isaac going into a foreign land, and their beautiful wife was with them, and to protect what they thought was their life, they lied of who that was. And Yahweh set it up here where there couldn't be a lie this time. Jacob couldn't say, this is my sister, because he was Jacob's brother and he knew who the sisters were. So that couldn't be done. This lie couldn't be done this time. And perhaps if it was somebody else other than Esau coming, Jacob could have said, this is my sister. But he couldn't lie this time. So Yahweh had set it up so he wouldn't lie. So this is another thing I caught, that I haven't caught previously, and people might miss often. I haven't heard people talk about that. It said, and he wrote, and he said, "These are the children Yahweh has graciously given to me, your servant." Jacob replied. So he's calling himself his servant to his brother Esau. Still not sure where Esau's heart is, and so on. Then the servant wives came forward with the children and bowed before him. You see, Jacob went first, and the wives went afterwards. They didn't come first. You see, so that's it. So then the servant wives came forward with the children and bowed before him. Now, Jacob must have told them what was going on prior to his trip or during his trip. So they knew too about Esau and being weary of Esau. So they must have came not all excited. Oh, this is your Uncle Esau. No, they must have came. Is he going to kill my husband? Is he going to take my children? Is he going to take me? And I'll tell you, if anyone here would have been the most nervous or scared, it should have been Leah, because Leah was the elder that, if things were in Yahweh's order, would have most likely been Esau's wife. And she doesn't know if Esau figured this out or not yet, but she might have. And so if anyone's should be in fear here, it should be her the most. And it says here, and what were all the flocks and herds I met as I came? Esau asked. And Jacob replied, they are a gift, my lord, to ensure your friendship. They are a gift to ensure your friendship. So now Esau is presented with this gift, and Jacob is still not necessarily trusting Yahweh. I don't recall Yahweh telling him in a dream to give your brother all these gifts. Jacob is trying to deceive or convince or trust his brother, so his brother wouldn't kill him. And his brother's return says, "My brother." So he calls him my brother, not my slave or my servant. He says, "My brother." See, in the previous chapter, we didn't see Jacob say, they are a gift, my brother, a friendship. He didn't say that. He said, my Lord. But here we see Esau saying, my brother, my brother. I have plenty, Esau answered. Keep what you have for yourself. Wow. So we see Esau with this tremendous change of heart since he last saw his brother. And we'll get into Esau's line here in a little while, and in a couple of chapters, and we'll see more about that. But verse 12, well, Esau said, verse 11, but Jacob insisted, no, if I have found favor with you, please accept this gift from me. And what a relief to see your friendly smile. It is like seeing the face of Elohim. Please take this gift I have brought you, for Yahweh has been very gracious to me. I have more than enough. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted the gift. It is an insult to receive a gift that's insisted. So Esau took it for that reason only. And the note here says, why did Jacob send gifts ahead of Esau? In Bible times, gifts were given for several reasons. One, they may have been a bribe. Gifts are still given to win someone over or to buy his support. Esau may first have refused Jacob's gift, but because he didn't want or need a bribe, he has already forgiven Jacob, and he has ample wealth of his own. And number two, this may have been an expression of affection, or number three, it may have been the customary way of greeting someone before an important meeting. Such gifts were often related to a person's occupation. This explains why Jacob sent Esau, who was a herdsman, sheep, goats, and cattle. So that was the note there that they had. And verse 12, well, Esau said, let's be going. I will lead the way. So Esau now said, let's go to the homeland. I'll lead the way. Let's get back and let's go have a party. Verse 13, but Jacob replied, you can see, my Lord. So he's still calling him my Lord. He said, you can see that some of the children are very young, and the flocks and herds have their young too. If they are driven too hard, even for one day, all the animals could die. Please, my lord, go ahead of your servant. We will follow slowly at a pace that is comfortable with the livestock and the children. I will meet you at Seir. Now, remember here, this is even though Jacob has been humbled in certain areas and he had a humble heart in certain areas, he's still lying, distrustful, deceiving. He says, I will meet you in Seir. Maybe that was his plan to go back there. Maybe it wasn't, but regardless, he didn't go meet him in Seir. I don't know if that was his plan, but Esau said, all right, Esau. All right, Esau said, but at least let me assign some of my men to guide and protect you. And Jacob replied, that is not necessary. It's enough that you received me warmly, my Elohim. So was Esau saying this so Jacob wouldn't deceive him and not come back? Or was he just trying to be gracious? And Jacob, did he have a plan not to go back? Or was his stop not his plan? Not sure what the answer to those was, but the point is he did not go back, and he said that is not necessary. So it says in the note here, why did Jacob imply that he was going to Seir, but then stop in Sukkot? We don't know the answer, but perhaps Jacob decided to stop there as they journeyed because Sukkot is a beautiful sight on the eastern side of the Jordan River. Whatever the reason, Jacob and Esau parted in peace. Then they have lived fairly close to each other until after their father's death. So, for whatever the reason might have been, we have to remember too, at this point, Jacob was not walking happily through the desert. He had a hip socket pain. So that could have been another reason. He just wanted to stop and rest because he was in so much pain. So we don't know the exact reason, but we do know he didn't continue to go all the way. Verse 18 said, so Esau turned around and started back to Seir that same day. Jacob, on the other hand, traveled on to Sukkot. There he built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is named Sukkot, which means shelters or booths. And some people might suggest that this was the first tabernacles there ever was. The Feast of Tabernacles, also called the Feast of Sukkot. That was it. So where he went wasn't too far, or where he stopped wasn't too far. But he did stop. And he didn't continue on his way to go meet his brother in Seir. Later, having traveled all the way from Paddan-aram, Jacob arrived safely at the town of Shechem in the land of Canaan. So he arrived at the town of Shechem in the land of Canaan. There he set up camp outside the town. So that was verse 18. So he sets up camp outside the town. And then verse 19 says, Jacob bought the plot of land where he camped from the family of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver. For 100 pieces of silver. And it was a coin worth a quarter of a shekel. So the Chassidist, or it says, because it says in the One New Bible, he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of kesset, not silver. But regardless, it was a coin worth about a quarter of a shekel. But he paid 100 of those. And then it says here, and there he built an altar and named it El Elyon Israel. And then it says God of Israel. That's the name, or the name of the what he built here. And remember, when he originally came out and he built the altar with the situation with Jacob's ladder, we hadn't heard him building any altars or too many altars since way back when. But now he built an altar, and so that shows us some change of his heart, or his thankfulness, or his relief from not being killed by his brother and being spared, and what he takes in Yahweh. So we don't know the exact reason why he didn't continue to go all the way and keep his word, but we see in the next chapter the consequences again for his lying. Folks, lying, there's nothing good coming out of lying. And the consequences come, we see in the next chapter, of his daughter, or at least one of his daughters, the daughter that's recorded, pretty much being raped. And you know, it's you get outside of Yahweh's plan and you're on your own. And another consequence is of what happened with Jacob's family and what they did to these people that took Dinah. And we said, I might have said that the previous chapter was one of the high points of Jacob's life, and the story of him being set free from Laban. And this chapter is probably one of the low points of the black eye or the black spot on Jacob's family. And we'll read that in the next chapter tomorrow when we read the Bible and continue to read the Bible every single day. As for today, it's Shabbat. If you guys are going to fellowship, please let everyone know that we're doing these readings every single day, and enjoy the Torah portion today and wherever you are today and not working. And have a blessed day, everybody. And everybody have a wonderful, blessed day. We'll be back tomorrow with chapter 34 of Genesis. Just continue on through these scriptures. Until then, everybody have a blessed day and shalom, shalom.